All right. So I want to welcome everyone tonight to this session, which is all about energy efficiency, all electric homes. And I'm really excited to welcome Trent Jones from All Electric Homes and, of course, Tim Forsey, well known throughout My Electric Efficient Home, the Facebook group. So I will give everyone, of course, in a couple of minutes, the chance also to introduce themselves. But before we start, I want to do a quick acknowledgement also of country. So in the spirit of reconciliation, Evitat acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aborigine and Torres Strait Islander people today. We are in particular here to listen, learn, and build a future together. So I welcome Trent. So we have been many times in talks around your amazing full service electrification of homes. And I'll give you in a minute also the opportunity to introduce yourself. Tim Forsey. So I think many of you today who are joining are familiar with Tim through My Efficient Electric Home Facebook group. Tim is very active. He's the founder of the group and, of course, contributing heaps of in terms of advice, even information around energy efficiency, like in terms of linking even people together. So I think this groundwork is absolutely amazing. And it's absolutely also needed in the space because we are tackling a couple of really big issues here. And we will tap into that in a second. We also want to welcome Daniel, who is our community manager, and he will be keeping an eye on any questions tonight, as well as running some polls meanwhile. And myself, I'm co-founder and CEO of Evitat. We are a platform solution for conscious home renovation, making healthy, low carbon and climate ready choices available to everyone. So we want to start today with a couple of really big questions so that we are able actually to look through different lenses from macro to micro as well. And I think there are a couple of really interesting questions maybe also to ask, in particular for those ones who are moving, for example, into that area. Do I actually go off gas? Why is all of a sudden this such a topic? And in particular questions like, are we running out of gas? Are renewables making gas prices expensive? And is it all about emissions? So what is it about? Huh? And I've been diving a little bit through research to shed a little bit also light on these questions. But Tim and Trent, feel free also to add, because you've been in that space for many years. And so far, what I have gathered together, it's actually predominantly a commodity market. We are selling a lot of gas off internationally, and then we need to buy it back. And this is really how these gas prices are increasing. So there's one driver in the market. But we are also looking actually at climate change and the necessity to take actions. And with that comes the need to really decarbonize and go off fossil fuels, and removing gas actually from our energy consumption is really a no-brainer, because we can make it work. And in particular here in Australia, we have a great opportunity. So I've also added here, for example, a little bit of more detailed information around the exported gas, and how much actually we are in, like, even here across Victoria, offering for own consumption. So, and that really drives a lot of expensive gas prices, and the uncertainty also of the market projection. So is it all about emissions? It is, to some degree, of course, because we do need to decarbonize. Is there anything, Trent or Tim, do you want to add anything to these questions?
Not at the moment.
Not yet, Sonia.
Okay. And I've also added a little bit of a projection, actually, where we are heading, and how it ties in also with the, for example, the Paris Agreement. And if we keep actually, for example, let's say on the trajectory with no major policy changes, we're facing actually quite dire outlooks. And that's exactly what we want to avoid. And everyone has the chance with their homes or with a property actually to make better choices. So I think it's a great opportunity to tap again exactly into the topic we are discussing tonight. And it is an amazing opportunity through the lens of Australia, because we have sun and wind in abundance. And that gives us the ability to harness this free energy. And for example, all the companies in that sector who make it work, who, for example, work also on technical solutions, I think that's exactly where we need to pull our strengths together and really open up that market. And every single electrification decision is actually in this moment also a climate action. So you are actively contributing to decarbonize the sector, but also making your homes far healthier, far better, and climate ready. So what will future-proofing our homes look like? And why now is the time to take action? We can really look into many areas, but one of the big drivers are, of course, costs. And Trent, we have been tapping into this a little bit in our chat through emails also. I think, what is your experience, for example, in particular, when you're talking to clients in terms of what are the priorities for around their decisions? Is it cost savings, affordability, future-proofing the home? Is it health aspect? So what is your experience in these conversations?
Yeah, so for majority of the conversations, Sonia, I'd say 80% of people are doing it to reduce their cost of living. And, you know, the prices going up, they're looking at ways to reduce costs, especially with all the rebates that are floating around currently in Victoria in particular. And then you've got a different bunch who are doing it for health reasons. So that's a motivator. And then you've got I'd say like, yeah, a much smaller minority doing it because they've got excess money and they just want to do good things for the environment. So it's their way of being able to put back in. So yeah, really three different motivators. It's lower your cost of living, health benefits, and the environmental impact. So, but the cost of living is, I'm finding, number one inquiry. How can we reduce it, and how can I get my return on investment back as quick as I can? So that's what we're seeing in the market.
Yeah. And Tim, I mean, you are running My Efficient Electric Home, the Facebook group. You have run a couple of, like even recently, I think, some polls and surveys, but also over time. How has that changed in terms of decision driver since you have started the group? And what is the latest insight? What is a strong pressure point for people? Is it equal
Yeah.
to what Trent was saying?
Yeah, it's interesting. Trent mentioned the three, but the biggest one for me, and I have a business where people ring me up and I go and I consult in their homes for 3 hours and we talk about the different ideas, and we may end up saying, you know, you need to give Trent a call to get on with the electrification. But the main reason people ring me up has to do with comfort. And so I'm kind of dreading the phone tomorrow because here in Melbourne, we've had some glorious autumn weather. And now this storm has just rolled in, and I can just feel our house getting colder because we haven't even had the heat on for the most part. And I can just feel the house getting colder, and so probably the heat is going to come on. But other people in unimproved homes, you know, they're gonna this will motivate them, and they'll get me on the phone, unfortunately. So I might be too busy. But and others who have worked in this space for a long, long time, such as Lynn and Morris Bean at EcoMaster, yeah, they would say that it's usually the weather that gets people to pick up the phone. And so home comfort and energy advisors like myself, yeah, you can go for a month and nobody rings, but then as soon as the bad weather rolls in, whether that's the cold weather or the hot weather, then that's where people can start to get excited. Over at the Facebook group, yeah, I think it's the same sort of thing. It's comfort, it's health, it's the cost of living, it's doing the environmental thing. And certainly during the horrible bushfires that we had, we certainly saw a lot of people get involved with My Efficient Electric Home, because their homes were leaky and they were full of smoke and they wanted to know how to keep the smoke out. But also, you know, the whole climate disaster was just so much in their face that they saw this as a way they could do something. So those are some of the drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think lived experiences or like climate events are a huge trigger point, and really to take some actions to change the conditions we live in. And as we know, homes here in Australia are quite underperforming and often called glorified tents. And I think in particular, when you're coming, for example, from some lived experiences from overseas where you have double or triple glazing, you have good insulation usually. I'm not saying that homes are not leaky. I think energy efficiency is a global problem in general. That still contributes actually also to understanding how to improve homes. And I'm actually really glad to see more and more people understanding the value of comfort and really appreciating it. So comfort is a really big part also in the surveys we run. Health plays in particular a very, very strong driver in when it's about goal settings, for example, and so on. And then, of course, comes also cost of living, affordability, and actually future-proofing the home against these rising costs. So I've captured here, for example, also the 2 screenshots from Rewiring Australia, in particular the water heaters and space heaters. And I know, Tim, you're a big fan of reverse cycle air conditioners. As simple because we don't face these prolonged periods probably of really cold environments. So an air conditioner can actually do fairly bit and good work in living areas. In particular, even better when, for example, insulation is added and so on. But these graphs show really the savings actually in energy use. And that contributes, of course, also to cost savings. So it makes sense. It makes sense to do it also now instead of waiting. And I'm hoping that we can hear later on a little bit also of Tim's journey and even how long it took maybe to upgrade certain system solutions. But once you do it and once you see the difference, it's actually something you could have done maybe earlier. But on the other hand, we are also now accelerating, for example, new technologies coming in and even better system solutions. So it is actually a great time to do that switch. We will also tap a little bit into retrofitting versus new build and where to start. And please also feel free to ask any questions around your specific journey. We are more than happy to tap into these, and Daniel will be picking them up and adding it into the conversation. All right, Trent, I hand it over a little bit to you to give us an introduction to all electric homes and how it works, and then we can also move into the case study we have prepared.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sonia. Yeah, so my name's Trent Jones, electrician by trade, been in the industry for just on 18 years now. So back in 2013, started electrical contracting business, and probably about 5 years ago, we started to move or find our niche as such into the green energy space. We started jumping onto the hot water heat pump bandwagon when they started first releasing the rebates for that. And we started with a subcontractor model. I wasn't a plumber, so I contracted plumbers in to help us achieve the goal of replacing these hot water units to heat pumps. Found that very clunky, so we decided to employ an expert in the plumbing industry and employ them. And basically, they became the head of plumbing for our department, and then we opened up a brand called Water Heat Pump. The demand went soaring. We got to probably doing 50 to 60 hot water heat pumps per week.
Amazing.
With the BAU scheme, and we made a huge impact. Yeah, so the demand just kept coming. We then started employing refrigeration mechanics so we could do the HVAC side of things, and our knowledge base grew and grew and grew. And what we found, the clients that we were helping really needed all these other things done at the same time. And we thought, well, why not try and service every part of the electrification journey under one roof with one company, and let's capture all rebates in one spot. So let's look at it holistically and go, okay, what's your objective? What are you trying to achieve? And how can we help you do it with the least amount of resistive and with the best advice? Because what we don't realize, or what people don't realize, is when you go ask for one upgrade, they don't realize the impact it might have on things further down the line, like a switchboard upgrade and stuff like that. So when we get to talk about it all in one big open book, we can capture all that stuff and make sure that we're giving the right advice along the way, so nothing's missed.
Yeah, and I'm assuming, for example, during that consultation, things like, are you planning, to switch to an electric vehicle, and these kind of conversations are then also a part of the consultation, just to know a little bit more, what maybe to include or what to consider as well in that full service. How often is it actually that someone goes really into the full service, or is it more that people say, like, let's say starting with a hot water heat pump upgrade or switch, and then adding things to it? Like, what's the tendencies in general at the moment?
Yeah, so obviously solar's been around for a long time. There's been subsidies for solar, and it's been the easiest one to show people, hey, listen, if you put solar in, you're going to start saving money from day one, which is true. What's been really hard to show people is the savings that you'll have on when you start abolishing gas appliances, because we haven't been really tracking that, and there's been no software or anything that's really been focusing on that. So what we're finding right now is most people, well, not most people, but a lot of people already have solar, and their next motivation is to go hot water heat pump. Why? Because there's a bunch of government rebates out there at the moment. On average, like there's $2,500 per household for just your heat pump upgrade rebate. So that's usually the first thing. We call it the buying. People usually contact us to start with the heat pump journey. But then once we show them the impacts of, well, if you go heat pump, induction cooker, or get rid of your gas heating, we show them what it looks like, which I think you've got some slides you'll show later. When we show them, okay, well, this is your energy profile, this is your home, this is your gas bill, this is your electricity bill, again, we ask them, what's your motivation? What are you trying to achieve? Do you want an electric car in the next few years? Are you going to induction cooktop? Because if you're going to do those two items, you're probably going to need 3-phase power. And there's a supply upgrade that we've got to talk about. You don't have to do it all at once, but what we like to do is show them what their total electrification budget and plan looks like. And then we can tailor it or go, well, let's start with, we can show them the effects. Like if you put a big solar system in and go heating and cooling upgrade, this is your energy savings for that particular activity. Or if you go solar, hot water heat pump, heating and cooling upgrade, these are your savings. So that every activity you do has an impact on your cost of living and also your CO2 production. So we can actually show that in real time to the client, and it just helps paint them a really clear picture about what their expectation is.
And you are also offering a general energy efficiency assessment through scorecard, I think, if it's relevant to the property and the building. And I guess that's also helpful. It's also subsidized at the moment heavily here in Victoria. And it's an added value, actually, maybe to understand even more efficiently how the building really performs. So you're capturing where someone starts and the building performance, and then throughout the electrification process, what it actually saves everyone then. So I have captured here a little bit that process as well. So once someone gets in touch with you, there's the review of the home. Is that the part where the option of scorecard assessment comes in, or what's the order actually?
Yeah, so the first thing is we get in touch with them. We find out, again, what's your motivation? What are you trying to achieve? So from there, it really depends on their motivation. So some people, if they want to understand the baseline or scorecard efficiency of the home, we suggest go see a scorecard assessor, which we, depending on their location, will refer them to whoever's in that area.
Yep.
And independent from us, we don't have anything to do with it. And then they'll come in, and obviously, I think this is where probably Tim's got more knowledge in this area with what the scorecard assessment does. But they'll basically do their magic, and like Tim said, probably spend 3 hours with them and come up with this recommendation to, again, upgrade your thermal shell. These are the activities you have to do, and if you want to get a 10-star energy rating, these are the activities you have to do. So it just helps them understand from a non-biased opinion about what they need to do in order to meet their targets, essentially. So, so we like to start with that as a baseline, and then we can build upon it. But if they don't want to go that way, obviously there's an expense for that. We can just work off their energy bills, because what we do in all electric homes, we don't really address thermal shell as such. We don't address leaky homes. What we're really good at is electrifying them. So if they just want to electrify, we just need their gas and energy bills, electricity bills, and then we can build a solution based on their energy profile, and that helps with their cost savings. But in regards to the thermal stuff, that's where we handball it.
Absolutely. So, Tim, maybe you can give a little bit of an overview what the scorecard ties in terms of the consultancy, and how to or what's the outcome, and the recommendations, what is included, and how, for example, it ties in then recommendations even for other steps around electrification and so on.
Sure. There's not every home advisor would necessarily do a scorecard, and I wouldn't do one in necessarily every home, but I have done hundreds of them in the past, and even was involved with the Victorian government in getting it set up and testing it, etc. So it is a standard method that is available for rating homes. Well, why it exists is people probably know there's a star rating for a dishwasher, there's a star rating for a refrigerator. But for existing homes, there really hadn't been a method for coming up with a rating for an existing home, which took into account, what was its orientation to the sun, and what sort of windows did it have, and how good's the insulation, and how much water do the shower heads pass, and what's the star rating for the actual heating or cooling system that you have, and does it have solar PV or not? So this tool can take all those things into account. An assessor would come to your home. They would measure every window. They would measure every room. You put like 500 pieces of information into a computer fairly quickly, push a button, and you get this star rating, which is nice. I mean, you know, an average home is about 3 stars, but it is possible to get up to 10 stars by doing all the right things. But probably more importantly, the computer will spit out some improvement options. And then also the person doing the scorecard is trained and is accredited and would be able to discuss these suggestions that are coming out of the computer. Do they make sense for this home? What is the householder trying to achieve in the first place? And so, the computer can do so much, but there's nothing like an experienced assessor then also offering the advice for what can be done in a home. So that can leave you with an idea that if you did the heating, if you did the hot water service, got off gas, what the impacts could be. Of course, there's things the scorecard doesn't take into account. When I visit a home, I might point out to people that they need to be cleaning the filters in their air conditioner. So the computer doesn't ask about those sorts of things. But it is a standard method anyway that the government is starting to collect data as to how our houses rate using this method.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, sometimes even personal circumstances, even discussing with a scorecard assessor, how to prioritize maybe certain steps is probably a core of even, getting understanding or a solution in the place, how to navigate that pathway. And I think that's where a scorecard assessor can actually help, really sitting down, at the kitchen table and then discussing all these contextual things, which also attribute sometimes not a straightforward journey. So helping actually understand and weighting maybe even certain solution is really, really of value. So, Trent, we have a guest tonight. It's one of your recent client, Robin. Robin, you're in with us, right? Give me a second. Daniel, do we have Robin in?
Yeah, they're scrolling through the large list of attendees. Robin is now promoted to panelist.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Hello, Robin.
1 second. And Trent, maybe we can have a look already at the case study and how it actually started. Maybe, hi, Robin, can you hear us? You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, awesome. Welcome, and thank you for joining. Quite curious to hear more about your experience and the journey and the outcomes, of course. So Trent, maybe give us a little bit an overview, what exactly, like how, for example, Robin approached you, and then we can also include Robin's experience working with you together.
Well, with the approach, I suppose, Robin, I think I'll let you have that one. How did you find us?
Okay, so I've been wanting to do solar for a really long time, and I'd had a few people in for quotes that I wasn't happy with for whatever reason, and I didn't want to go online and start getting inundated with phone calls and all sorts of people that I had no idea about. And I happened to be at a Aboriginal festival, and there was a company there called Repower who do this sort of stuff, but there was a guy on the side called Jason, and he's setting up a computer program, you plug in what you need and it will tell you what you need, I think. Trent knows more about it. Anyway, I told him what I wanted to do and that I didn't want to go online. I didn't want to just make random phone calls, and he put me on to Trent. So a couple of months went by and then I finally rang Trent and we had a really good chat. And yeah, I think from that point to 2 weeks it was done.
Robin, can I ask, did you plan like doing all these things at once, or did they happen actually to be then, let's say, a no-brainer because you came to conclusion by, you know, understanding a little bit better?
Yep. So my house is nearly 10 years old.
Mhm.
Already got double glazed windows. I had ducted heating, so it's 2-story. So the upstairs was always really hot and downstairs was cold, and I get cold because I sit here working all the time, and sitting still in winter, I'm just cold all the time. I didn't want to put the heater on. So that was always a problem because I was never getting warmed up, and I didn't want to use, we had a smaller split system that was never functioned, just never, was good for air conditioning, but not for heating. So when Trent said we can upgrade the split system, I'm like, yeah, I think that would be a good idea, because this one, and having done that, the difference is like day and night. I actually can feel warm in my house, and you know, we've turned off all the gas. The gas has all been removed now. We talked about the solar, and other people had said, oh, your roof's going the wrong way, or you can't do this. But I know where the sun comes up, and so we've actually put them on the garage roof and on the roof above me, as well as on the side of the roof that goes like that. So we've actually maximised where we can put the solar, which was really good. The hot water service, we had a little instantaneous hot water service, which always took, I don't know if you guys are in Australia. Aussies don't like wasting water. So you always had to run off a lot of cold water to get hot water in my bathroom, which isn't, it's like 20 steps from the hot water service. So when we said about putting in the heat pump, I was like, yep, let's do that. Because now it's just amazing. We've got really good hot water all the time. And then he said about the induction cooktop. And so I said, yeah, let's just do it all. So that's probably one of the easiest sales across the line you've seen, but it was the timing. I was ready because I've already had to replace most of the appliances in the house. So I figured I'm probably going to have to replace them soon anyway. And it just made sense to do it all in one hit. And I felt a lot of trust and integrity with Trent. So I was happy to go ahead.
And like, what was for you, for example, a priority to achieve through this electrification process and pathway? Like, was it, for example, saving on costs predominantly, or like, what was the motivation?
Saving on costs predominantly, yes. I can now have the heater on during the day and not worry about what it's costing. That's a big factor for me. So I don't have to sit here with an electric blanket wrapped around me and jumpers and everything on. I can actually have the heater going, and I don't feel guilty because it's not running up a bill. Just the whole thing, actually, like the gas cooktop would have been fine, but that was sort of like, we might as well swap it over if we're doing everything all electric. The hot water service was always a pain. Like, it's just been running off all this water. So it just all made sense to do it all at one hit. And from the other quotes that I'd had for just solar, the price wasn't that different. And so it, to me, was reasonably priced. I didn't feel being ripped off. It was actually a really good conversion.
Yeah. And Trent, you have basically went in, you know, did that first assessment and added all these information points into your software, and presented it also in terms of the savings and so on. So all of the bigger picture came basically together. Was there also, like, for example, any other, I guess in this case, there was no scorecard consultation because it was fairly straightforward in terms of what it needed to be done. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, Robin came very motivated. She knew what she wanted. Like she said, she'd been wanting to do this for months, but took no action. So there was, like she mentioned, there was no convincing. It was like, yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. So motivated, educated. Robin knows, you know, I'm not going to speak on behalf of Robin, but I believe you understand the concept of how this is going to save money. We didn't really need to show her so much this what you're seeing in front of us, because sometimes when you've got that background of how things work, what things cost, it's a no-brainer. And obviously when you do it all at once, the savings are there pretty much straight away. As you can see by this this graph here we're looking at in front, we've basically reduced her annual spend to run her home from $3,800 a year by down to $673. Now they're projected. Me and Robin are going to stay in touch over the next 6 months to 12 months, hopefully for much longer than that, Robin. And we're going to touch base and see what the actual impact of this has done for her bills. Because, you know, the proof's right there in the pudding. But yeah, so when you can save $3,000 a year and go totally gas free, it's a pretty cool impact and cool result.
Absolutely. And that's maybe just also to mention, that's a part we are in particular also really interested in, to see these long-term values emerging after you've done, for example, certain improvements, and how it really like what's the true on the ground, like let's say energy efficiency, and how it changes actually also the costs. And we are capturing that through our platform in logbooks, and that's exactly what we will touch base a little bit later. But I think it's an absolute important part to learn, to know, for example, from an assessment in energy efficiency in the beginning, and then also to touch base actually later on and get some profound validation of all of this. And we know also through conversations with many renovator that it has been completely mind-changing. And often enough, some renovators come on that journey, maybe even with thinking, you know, is it going really to save me that much cost and so on? But then they are often really even surprised that it turns out to be, yeah, sometimes even surprisingly more than they have initially thought of. So, but this is a very nice way also to demonstrate the potential of it. And I think that's a great actually way maybe really to talk about what it means, how you can drive that down. And it includes also, for example, emissions, which I'm a big fan of, because there's a secondary sentiment with every step you're taking, you're doing something good actually for the planet, for future generations. You are improving actually your home and leaving it for a much longer time in the market. So it's a great way to think about this and to be proud of that moment as well.
Yeah,
I might just jump in with a quick question from
Yep.
the audience and from myself. Basically, it was like seeing that platform that you use, Trent, and kind of seeing the savings and the carbon savings all in one place. I imagine that's quite a much more compelling tool for clients than saying if you do this and then this in a few years. Like it's kind of a lot more impactful in terms of kind of the story. And I guess my question is, did you start kind of doing the all electric home things before using that, and did you really see a difference in like having that visual tool? And then also someone's asked in the chat about Robin's specific project, about the total spend and kind of predicted payback time for the project.
Sure. Yeah, so Robin has agreed for me to disclose this. So to answer your first question, Daniel, we started doing this well before this software became to us. And the moment I saw this software land in my eyes, they lit up. I definitely saw the value in this. I found it very difficult to demonstrate to people what the whole picture looked like. Obviously, I knew in myself with my background and my history and how everything works in this space. I know it's a no-brainer, but it was very hard for me to show the consumer or the customer that. So when Jason from SpendWhat landed in front of me at I can't remember where we were, but it's amazing. So you can see how nice that image looks, and it's a game changer for us. It's been very helpful. Just to give everyone an understanding of how things work, what it costs. And so let's go to cost. So this particular project, and just remember everyone that every house is very different. This is a unit. Everything's different. But total budget for this price before any government rebates come in at just under $22,000. And there was what was there? There was just under $10,000 in government rebates we harnessed in one hit. That's including STCs, VEECs, solar rebate, all that sort of stuff. Nearly every activity except the gas cooktop we captured a rebate for. And so that brought the total expense out of pocket just on $13,000 with an estimated ROI of 3.7 years, according to the data set you're looking at. So we'll be able to confirm that in 6 months' time when we follow up with Robin to see how that's tracking.
Awesome.
Maybe we can do another
And
webinar
Robin,
then.
you have not changed anything in your behavior. You're still working from home, and the conditions are all the same, right?
Well, now I can put the heater on. I already had 2 split systems, little ones upstairs in the bedrooms. So I didn't have to do that. But it has been really nice to block off that ducted heating. So that if they put the heaters on upstairs, that's going to come down here as well. So, I mean, I've had to turn the heater off or down already tonight. So it's, yeah, I couldn't speak more highly of it. It's been a really good experience.
Yeah. So you are completely off gas. It has been basically abolished. And then this is also a little bit of an overview of the electrification, the system solutions, which were selected. So full solar inverter, hot water heat pump, the cooktop, and was that all?
The split system, Trent?
Yeah, that's the heat pump. It's called heat pump. There's the Mitsubishi Bronte. That's the one above your head there.
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's a great example of how to do it in one go. I think in terms of even the incentives, like putting like all of this through Trent, like this is basically not delaying the project, or what's actually the time frames also to apply this.
But I might jump in for a second. We have an interesting question in the Q&A from a Michael, and I think it's and I've certainly seen it many times over the last fair few years. And the questions are in our collective experience. Why is it that some plumbers kind of do not believe in or have negative opinions of heat pumps? I don't know, maybe Trent, in your experience with plumbers, what have you seen about this? I know in the past, obviously, there was a bit of bad reputation around some kind of dodgy operators and not so high quality heat pumps, and people think they don't work in Victoria and they're too loud. Yeah, how do you think people can kind of convince their plumbers or message to other plumbers that it's not really the way anymore?
Yeah, listen, and I had this struggle when trying to find plumbers on my journey a few years back when I went to heat pumps. I bumped into that many plumbers. I said, hey guys, I want to start putting heat pumps for my clients. Who wants to help me? No, they're garbage, you're garbage, you're garbage. I'm like, so what I found is that the whole plumbing industry right now, they feel there's a big threat happening with the gas getting cut off. They feel like their jobs are going to get cut. They're going to lose out. And I said, no. This is a massive opportunity for you guys to pivot and change the way we do things. Let's be open-minded. Let's go, how can we take it? How can we take this up to the next step? So it's a new technology. They saw it as gas boilers are in, gas is forever. So I would say old school or older generation plumber have that mindset of just like, no. And see, and it just went that way. And this is where it really confused consumer, because they would talk to a plumber, right? Because it is a plumbing item. They'd say, well, I've heard heat pumps are the new thing. No, they're not. No. They're old stuff. They're crap. They break down. They're this, they're that. Don't do it. And it's like, you're just confusing people. So, and then you'd have, someone who understands the future, understands the technology and sees the efficiency gains, telling them another story. So much confliction going on out there. And really, it wasn't until last year or late last year, Solar Victoria started putting on information sessions to educate plumbers that heat pumps are actually good, and you really need to start spinning this around, because Solar Victoria got people inside of the likes of Reece, Swan, and all the plumbing wholesalers, and put these little barbecues on just to show, hey guys, this is a heat pump and these are the benefits of it. make sure you tell everyone. So it's getting better, but I definitely felt the pinch back a few years ago when we tried to start this thing. And the reason why I bought it in-house, like we've got all of our plumbers now are nearly electricians. They've got the mindset, they understand. So they're now upskilling and learning new skills to electrify and don't see it as a threat at all. They see it as a new opportunity to learn new things.
Yeah, I think and that for sure is also one really big quality trait, I think, in the thinking of all electric homes, of Want to Sparky. I think it's actually harnessing this as an opportunity in the market and really delivering on an outstanding service quality and making that shift really easy. I think that's the reason why we have Trent also on board on Evitat, because we believe it needs actually a collaborative and an ecosystem thinking to move everyone across. And it's not easy, but I think the right mindset is needed here. And Trent, you're putting a lot of effort actually to advocating for that, also through the industry and through the staff. And I think that's exactly the company mentality we need to make this work. And maybe with that, Tim, I know that you have been facing similar statements throughout the past when it came to all kind of energy efficiency upgrades. Yeah, we are in Australia. We don't need that traditionally. I've been facing similar things. So I give you maybe a couple of minutes before you have to head off to tell a little bit about your story and how it started, but how you have pivoted to one of the biggest advocates in that sector.
Yeah, and what's the next slide? Do you have that graph there somewhere?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. This chart here shows our home, and I published this in an article that you can find on the Fifth Estate, Home Electrification in One Chart. And also that graph appears in my new book that's just about to come out on the 18th of June there, My Efficient Electric Home Handbook. But looking at that graph, we see the red and the blue. The red is the gas that our old weatherboard here in Sandringham, Victoria, the gas we used to buy in 2008, and the blue was the electricity. And the first little thing you see in 2009 is the electricity purchases go down. That's because we put up the first 6 solar panels. So those were back in the days when all you got was 1 kilowatt, and they were heavily government subsidized. So they paid off very quickly. Through the following years, then you see the red bar does get a bit shorter as we did some draft proofing and some insulation and got some double glazed windows, not completely, and some better window coverings. And so by 2016, we had made a dent in our gas purchases. But also around that time, I had a casual research gig at the University of Melbourne, and we worked out that you could heat a home with a reverse cycle air conditioner for a third the cost of gas. And so now I tell people to get off gas. You got better, cheaper, cleaner, healthier options. And this is all very ironic, considering that I migrated to Australia to work in the gas industry, but with SO and BHP. But I don't do that anymore. And in fact, you know, the cheap gas for Victoria is just about done. I used to fly in a helicopter to the platforms in the Bass Strait and look down at all the oil and gas there. And when they discovered all that oil and gas, they looked down. It was 59 years ago, and they said, "Look, there's 60 years worth of gas there," and that was 59 years ago. So we're into the very last dregs of gas coming out of the Bass Strait, and this is why, you know, the whole Victorian state government understands that we need to get homes off gas because we got such better options. Continuing on then with our story at our house. In 2017, I had to take my own advice, and we brought in the 2 air conditioners, 2 split systems, and we now heat with those rather than using the old ducted gas heating system that I'd put in 1994 anyway. And you can see that the gas use collapses because we're no longer using gas for heating. And the gas industry would say, "Oh, you can't do that because you'll use too much electricity to run your reverse cycle air conditioners." And you can see that the blue bar does go up a little bit, but just a tiny little bit, because the reverse cycle air conditioners are actually so efficient in getting free heat out of the air outside and bringing that into your home. about 80% of the heat you'll get out of a reverse cycle air conditioner is free heat that it manages to collect from the environment. And it only needs a little bit of electricity to do that. In 2018, then we got off the gas hot water as well onto a heat pump. And then in 2019, we put up 22 more solar panels along with the 6 that are still there and still running. And then later on in 2022, 21, we finally got around to the kitchen renovation that allowed us to get completely off the gas cooking. For a while, we'd been using a portable induction cooktop, no electrician needed, just plug that into the wall. But we finally got around to doing a small renovation with the kitchen that meant we had a permanent induction cooktop installed. But anyway, now in 2022, you can see that over the course of the year, the home is now a net energy producer into the system. So it's better than net zero. It's net positive. Over the course of a year, it actually puts more energy into the system than it takes out. Now, we don't have an electric car, and so that's not part of this chart just yet. When we get that, then I'll have to draw the chart again and also put petrol on here. But this is just the house, not the car. So the house is a net energy provider to the system. In terms of dollars, it's a very similar equation to what we heard from Robin. If, we still have a $600 a year electricity bill. You pay $1 a day to be connected to the electricity grid, and we have an electrically heated spa. So that's a luxury item, which takes a fair bit of electricity. And so we still have a $600 a year electricity bill. But if we'd never made any of the changes, and you look at the bar back in 2008, at today's prices, that would be energy bills of $3,600. So like Robin, we're saving about $3,000 a year by these investments that we made. What's the payback? Well, you could say we brought the air conditioners in for summer cooling. So, they paid off immediately. The first day we used them for heating instead of using the gas, they had already, were making money for us because, a lot of homes need summer cooling. Get yourself a reverse cycle air conditioner. It's an amazing thing. It'll cool your house, but guess what? It's also your cheapest form of heating. And then the hot water service was needed for replacement anyway. And then you get off the gas cooking is for health reasons as much as anything. Gas cooking produces a whole range of contaminants for your home that you get to breathe if you can't get them out of your house. Nitrous oxide in particular being something that is bad for asthma, particularly in children. So that's kind of part of our home story. I wasn't the first one to do this, and I certainly didn't do it in the fastest way. Robin did it much more quickly. And my kids, for example, my daughter and son-in-law just bought a house in Cheltenham. They know the drill. It's not their first house. And so they had an electrical company come in straight away. They'll never use the ducted gas heating. They'll never use the evaporative cooling. They've got three split systems now, and hot water heat pump and induction cooktop. So they went to a gas-free home in a matter of a month after they bought it. So that's the sort of things that are possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it puts really into perspective, it's a journey. It's a learning journey. It's a transition. It is understanding, and it's totally okay. And I think with every single step, you are making more informed decisions, and you are really future-proofing your home. And that's an amazing outcome because again, you are not anymore under the risk actually of rising energy costs. And I think knowing that is already so much satisfaction and really allows you to think completely differently instead of facing, $3,500 or maybe more $1,000 every year to pay. So yeah, I think
I might just interrupt for a second.
Yep.
I know that Tim, you have to pop off for a 7 o'clock thing, so maybe just in a minute or two, if you don't mind, before you go. I know you did that great poll of everyone in my efficient electric home and wrote an article about the top 11 barriers to electrification that came out of that poll. I was wondering maybe if you could let us know the top 1 or 2 of your favorites from that and kind of what are the biggest solution from that, just because it might be most useful for people in the chat. And then thank you.
Yeah. Barriers to electrification. Well, number 1 is probably just knowledge and information. And by the way, Robin, is it true that you just joined the Facebook group My Efficient Electric Home an hour ago?
Yeah, probably. I didn't know about it.
So you are member number 119,641. Congratulations. So actually in that poll we did, you know, finding information was not something that people talked about. And you know why? Because they were already in my efficient electric home. And that's really, you know, it's not just a chat, it's actually a searchable database. So if you can figure out how to use the search function in the Facebook group, you can go back and dig up posts that were made 9 years ago when the group started. So that's a good source of information. And there's other places you can go for information too. But then the next barrier was certainly money. Money, of course, financing. Another barrier, you know, is I'm a renter. So, you know, how much of this can I do if I'm a renter? But for the folks that own their homes, yeah, getting the money, because there is money involved. And a lot of people would like to make changes. I mean, my daughter, I mentioned, you know, that straight away they made the changes to make the home gas free, but that means they've got more, you know, money on their mortgage. You know, they allowed for that, but it means they had to take on a slightly bigger mortgage to pay for those things until they pay off. So financing is certainly a big thing that folks have difficulty with. And I will need to pop off to the other thing, but yeah, any thoughts on that, Daniel?
That's great. Thank you so much, Tim. Appreciate your time.
Okay, all righty. I'll see you then.
See you soon.
Thanks, Tim. Cheers, buddy.
Yep. Yeah, coming back actually to even Robin's journey, I think you know, there's similarities in all of this, and I think it's really showcasing very well what means even a future-proofed home. I think in particular these similar outcomes between your home, Robin, and even Tim's improvement, and everyone who is on that journey, really enjoying actually that assurance that you're not facing anymore these constantly increasing energy costs. And that's a great way to look at it. On top comes, of course, you're doing something good, and that's a nice way to add. Also, of course, for some people, this is motivation number one. But again, I think these journeys can vary. And that's exactly where I think we need to be open to support everyone on that journey. So on Evitat, I want just to use also the last part of it. We are basically vetting, for example, supply. We are vetting also manufacturers, service providers. And that includes from quality, from products, from the lands, also how they operate. The way how you can search, for example, for even professionals and suppliers and service providers is also by location, by expertise. Daniel, you have recently also created actually a little of an explanation video, and it's posted also on our community, but feel free even to jump in. I can show you that maybe in a second. Just need to share again. So, for example, even if you're looking for, let's say, in this case, you know, home electrification service, but often enough, for example, also with professionals like builders, architects, you can really search throughout even location-based and expertise. It's a really important part because, like I mentioned, renovation come in many sizes. Start maybe with a simple step, solar PV system, improvements around electrification. But then at some point, you want to go maybe more and do some more things. So this is a part where we want to bring in more transparency and also to build on that trust actually into that market. And what Trent also mentioned earlier, really highlighting companies who are investing a lot also on the education, on the advocacy side. And that's exactly where we want to invite these companies to be part of Evitat. I also want to demo quickly. In this case, we have used Robin's example. I just need to switch. And you can see we are actually measuring these good improvements around your home, might be through retrofitting, might be through these single decisions, or even a major renovation or an extension, whatever you want to do. All this information gets actually added here. When you engage with someone through the platform, that information usually flows through directly and gets also stored in your logbook. The beauty of this is when you have, for example, documentation, you can access also warranties at any time. I tell that because we have years ago installed solar PV. I got the folder, it ended up somewhere, most likely in another folder with my accountant. It's gone. It's not easy actually to just pick it out and check warranties, who was the company who installed it, and so on. So that's exactly one part of it, but it's also giving you a measurement around human sustainability-centric elements, and then being able, when you are ready maybe to sell that property, to demonstrate all these good decisions, attaching that to your property listing, informing the real estate agent clearly about all these investments, and then really harnessing that really growing demand in the market to find these properties. And that's exactly where we also see a great value of future-proofing these homes. And I think it needs to be demonstrated and attributed within the property listings as well. So that's pretty much on our side. We invite anyone because in particular, the logbook is completely for free. If you want to try it, if you want to test it, feel free to create an account. We are planning heaps of new features, including also an upload feature where you can actually, for example, add previous invoices and it reads out that information. Daniel, do we have any additional questions maybe to tap into? Is there anything? You're still on mute.
Sorry, no longer on mute. Let me have a look. Yeah, perhaps maybe Trent and Robin, if you have any thoughts on this. Yeah, maybe Trent, are there kind of 3 misconceptions about home electrification that you hear from clients or maybe other tradies out there that maybe you could dispel for us here, and kind of things that you've learned to overcome yourself, and kind of, yeah, what are the main things that you'd like people to think about and to kind of take away from the session?
I think that the biggest issue in the market, and this is why we brought it all in-house and speak of it as one, is just the misinformation that gets said across different industries. That's the biggest issue. That's where people get confused. And we brought it up before. If we can understand the total journey, where the end game is going to be, we can talk about all the things in between and make sure we capture everything properly. We want to make sure we're going towards the solution with the technology that's available, not be against it and go, well, no, that's new, I don't like it, don't do it, because that's misinformation. And I don't believe any, like most trades that we come across in, like when you're trying to electrify a home, right? Really, you really need to speak to 4 to 5 different companies actually in order to get it. If we go the traditional tradesman like pathway, like, you know, you've got to, if you're a plumber, you're only a plumber, you don't do anything but plumbing, then you're only Sparky, and then you're only an air conditioner dude. When you're individual like that, you don't understand what the other trades actually have to do in order to do their job. So you might go, yeah, just do this. And then they go, well, hang on a second, you've just taken the power supply for this, or you've just taken the water supply for this. Now what do I do? Or you've just put that heat pump in the way of where I want to put the hydronic heat pump. So, you know, this is the confusion that we get. And probably that's the biggest barrier for people not doing it, because they go, you know, it's too hard. I've spoken to 5 different people. They're all giving me different opinions. I'm just going to walk. So when you just make it like, hey, that's easy, that's easy, that's easy. Guys, it's really easy to electrify a home. We can generally do it in 2 days. We first degas, get in there, degas, replace all the appliances, then finish it off with a solar system on top. It's really simple. And like Tim said earlier, one of the other biggest barriers is expense. But there are quite a lot of companies out there, finance companies, that are doing green loans for environmental upgrades. So they are making it easier. They are getting the interest rates down to as low as 6.5% for environmental upgrades. So, and what we try to do with that platform that you saw earlier too, if we can get the capital expense right and the ROI to match out, or to get, we try to turn it into a cash flow positive situation. So if you need to borrow a 7-year loan, and we can get your energy running costs down to $3,000 a year savings, if you have to get a loan out to pay that back, as long as we can get your savings lower than $3,000 from your energy savings, your repayments down to that, we've essentially created a cash flow positive situation. Whether it be a 5 or 7-year loan, if you're going to stay in that house longer than that period, you're essentially, it's a no-brainer. So, again, educating around all that stuff and giving people a really simple, non-confusing solution is what's gonna make this move happen a lot quicker.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Robin?
I just think also too, if you said to someone it's going to cost you $20,000, they're going to just back off real fast. Whereas when you break it down and you take out all the grants that you can get and everything like that, it doesn't cost that much more than just getting solar on.
Yep.
I think you're getting solar, you'd be mad to not get a quote to do everything you need, because you'd be really surprised at the small difference it's going to make. And that difference over 3 or 6 years is nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, if anyone who's listening who's thinking of doing it, get the quote to do everything before you make a decision on just solar or just a heat pump, because you've got to get the trades here anyway. It literally took 2 days. It was 2 big days, and I work from home, and they put me out a power pack.
UPS,
So I didn't lose any power at all. So I just think if you think you're doing it, you want to get a quote to do the lot rather than have them coming back. Is it Tim? People are coming back all the time. You've got all that disruption. It probably ends up costing more because you're stopping and starting the flow of the changeover. Whereas if you do it, it's cheaper because you've got the tradies there anyway. They're all helping each other the whole time, and it just worked seamlessly. It was great.
Yeah, I guess for electrification, that's really emerging as a full service opportunity. Like when you're looking, like in particular in Tim's case, that's like 15 years of journey to improve. But I guess that comes also sometimes back to understanding actually, how to improve even that building, what's the best way, what's maybe the best also investment for the money you spend, and versus actually getting then the outcome you want to achieve. So a lot of that, like what we hear, for example, is a lot around educating yourself in that space, and then making more conscious decisions around, and really also finding the right trade and companies to support you on that journey. So I guess this is, again, probably it also comes back to, is it the right moment? I would say yes, because we have a government who has a fair bit of support programs around. So do it because in particular in the southern states here in Australia, we are facing cold weather periods in winter, and we didn't even had that hot summer. So I can actually only encourage anyone to think clearly around electrifying their homes. And like I said, you are also contributing a great deal actually to general decarbonization, and you're leaving really great quality homes in the market as well. So
Robin, do you feel inspired to do anything else with your home now that you've gone through this journey and kind of seen what you can do? Are you looking at an electric vehicle or any insulation or kind of anything else around the house?
Pretty much got the insulation. I've just bought a new 4-wheel drive and caravan, so I can't get an electric vehicle for a while because I've traveled. So that's that would be the next thing. But I did ask about a battery, but then that wasn't really worth it for the cost of them at the moment anyway. But I'm sure like in, 5 to 10 years time, the cost of that would come down. So that would probably be the only real thing I need, because I've already got double glazing. I've got the 2 splits upstairs. I don't really need anything else now. Now that it's done, it's done.
Yeah. And your home is fairly, like, it's not that old. You
nearly 10 years old.
Yeah.
So not,
yeah,
still new, fairly new, but now it's just a whole lot better.
absolutely. Yeah.
Everything's more efficient, much more efficient than what it was. So yeah, I actually feel really good about it all, because I know that if I've got the heater on, even now when I've got the heater on, it's more efficient. It's heating the house, whereas before nothing was working. So
absolutely. And maybe also like even in the sense of like there's a lot of discussion around mandatory disclosure of energy efficiency, which will be coming. It's just a matter of time when. And I think that again puts you and your house in a very good spot. So you don't need necessarily to worry about what that means for you and your property value in future. And that's exactly, I think, where every step taken even today is really worthwhile actually doing. And who knows, if we have the same incentives in a couple of years or not. So I guess that's when the market matures, and there might be changes. There might be also new technologies moving in. But the benefits you are already getting from the system, actually having a comfortable home and not needing to worry, is already of great value.
Yeah.
We are over time. I want to thank everyone. Trent, just maybe to give you also another minute, in terms of electrification and all the services you are actually offering, even through Sparky and hot water heat pumps, you are also doing bigger projects, of course, and that also goes even for multi-dwelling buildings. You will be part also of the High Life Expo on Saturday. So I'm encouraging anyone who lives in apartment buildings to check out, and maybe you can still get a ticket. I'm not quite sure, because I know that they were pretty much sold out. But it's a great opportunity actually to understand what options do I have within, like, living in an apartment building, tackling strata, all these circumstances. Trent, you are there with a stall, is that right?
Yeah, we'll have a stall. 3 of our other staff will be there, which I believe they're in this crowd, I think, watching tonight. And yeah, so we're there to help assist. So we've got a few projects on the go at the moment with strata groups. We're currently helping 64 apartments in Melbourne get off the communal gas boilers for their hot water and doing commercial grade heat pumps for them. So the team have been on that all week, and I'm hoping that they'll finish it tomorrow. So we've got a cool thing to show at the High Life Expo. But yeah, we're going to give away a free engineer's roof report that will allow a commercial size solar system go on a roof for strata. So it'll go on the common areas, so all the individual apartment owners can actually share that energy production. So it's one thing that I miss out on. But there's companies out there like iLoom that help distribute that electricity. So yeah, so we're out there going to do a free design and engineers report worth $2,500. So come and see our stall if you're in the area. But High Life Expo is going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. Well, with that, I want to thank everyone. Please feel free to join Evitat and try out, the logbook, but also if you are on the journey, even to find your right professional, feel free to use what we are offering. And I'm looking forward to the next webinar as well. But thank you in particular, Trent, and everyone who has joined also that ecosystem on Evitat. It's really about strengthening the voice in the market and making that shift really easy for people, like every single one of us. So thank you and enjoy your evening, everyone. And if there's any additional questions, please feel free also to post them in community. I'm pretty sure Trent will jump in, or anyone from the staff side, and answer any questions who are there. Yeah. Thank you. And
Thanks,
enjoy
guys.
your
Thanks, Sonia.
evening.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Daniel.
See you later.
See ya.